Let's go to the NBA first on the show today. Tuesday, game 5. Two teams facing elimination tonight. Both the Sixers and the Blazers trying to fight this off in road games. And as you noted, Dave, it's been a little bit surprising. The Magic are owning my Pistons. Cavs and Raptors is a good series, deadlocked right now. But the ones we're going to discuss tonight are mostly going as we expected.
Yeah, I think so. I think we said in our overall first preview of these series, Sixers Celtics kind of felt like a gentleman's sweep in the making. It's trending that way if they win tonight. That's the Celtics. Knicks Hawks is deadlocked. Not really surprised. The Knicks feel like they could be winning this 3-1 or perhaps even have wrapped it up already, but I wouldn't expect the Knicks to simply do that. And then Spurs Blazers, they're up 3-1 even without a game that Wemby or with a game that Wemby missed. So not a lot of surprises here in this series. Don't think we're going to see a lot of surprises in each of these predictions either, but we're going to go game by game and see what we can uncover here. Looking quick at the best bets in Celtics Sixers. Decent edge here on the Sixers to cover plus 10.5. Obviously getting that because of the odds at Novig. It's more like 11.5 on traditional books. Those odds are closer to like minus 112, minus 115. So that edge is pretty tied to that value. And then very slim edge on them for the upset. Almost none to speak of. Not getting those odds. They're certainly not going to get that value at all. Sixers covered in 2 games, including their 1 win, obviously. But the 2 covers by the Celtics were absolute beatdowns, more than 30 points. Not really much lean here on the total, 51% to go over, 213.5. No edge at all. Celtics play really slow pace. They take up the shot clock. So I'm not, I wouldn't jump on a 51% probability towards the over without any value, really. Not going to stand here and buck the model, but I don't know. It's hard for me to get behind the Sixers. Joel Embiid came back and it didn't matter at all. They almost looked worse. It's been kind of chaotic scoring, who's stepping up besides Maxey. Paul George has been pretty good defensively, but other than that, it's kind of hard to get a big lean on any particular player or, outcome of this game. The Celtics could kind of take it easy. Wouldn't surprise me to see the Sixers cover, but the way they handled them in the 2 games that they did cover the double-digit spread, absolutely throttling them. It's just a bit of a stay away for me, especially if you can't get that value.
Yeah, I feel the same. When half the games in the series have been non-competitive blowouts, it doesn't exactly inspire faith that when a team like the Sixers is going to really show up to compete versus hang their head and say it's time. They know they're overmatched with the Celtics, but we've seen desperation push it both ways. We've seen teams hang their heads and call it a year, and then we've seen teams really inspired come out the gates, try to extend their season 1 more game. Both these teams have been in the playoffs a ton. There's a lot of guys on the court for both of these franchises right now that are playing, in their 50th playoff game or something of that nature. And I do think the Sixers are full of professionals with the right mix of young guys too, trying to make their mark on the league, that I would expect inspiration to come from them. So not surprised to see a little bit of an edge from the model on the Sixers being the correct side here. But I found something props-wise that I'm excited for in this game, and I'm curious if you'll call it out before we get to my portion of this. I'll throw it to you first. What do you see from props here?
Off the top of the board, Jaylen Brown over 4.5 total assists. Really, really good value here. Almost 59% probability, projected for 6.0. So, a good bit over the line, 10.6% edge, plus 109, plus money. Odds, really, really nice there. I put down his rebound stats here. So let me speak to that one instead. But very good Dimers model value there. If you want, I can check his game log, but I actually don't think he's gone over that one yet in this series. But over 6.5 rebounds, also very good. 7.6 projected, 56% probability, very similar edge and odds there. He's hit 7 rebounds in the past 3 games. Pretty good trend right there. Since the first game when he went under. And then pretty good value, of course, on Tatum, 24.5, projected for 28 points, 57.2% probability. Not quite plus money, but that's still a really good price. Good projection over the line. He's got 25 in 3 of these games. I think the only game he went under was the loss by the Celtics. So good trend there as well. So you got 2 props here hitting 3 out of 4. Favorable projection and probability. That's what stands out to me most for the Sixers or for the Celtics. And then Sixers wise, I kind of like I was saying about the game result. I don't really know how to play them. The scoring's been all over. Embiid scored well, but it didn't really mean anything for the team as a whole. So you can see the model projections, and you can use the projections hub to maybe put together some lines or targets. But just going down, these are sorted in order of probability, and you don't find the Sixers anywhere even over 50%. The projections are not quite aligned with the over or the under here. Good value, that's what's driving all of these props as appearing in this page. But Sixers, there's not a lot of appealing data that doesn't come with the extra risk of the lower probability for the Sixers. So,
yeah. All right, I'm on Tatum here, and I think I've identified something that doesn't really make sense to me with where it's priced. And obviously, the model likes Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum overs, but I would call out Tatum 24.5 being the line for points, Jaylen Brown 26.5 being the line for points. That in general reflects what they have been since Tatum returned to injury this month. Tatum, I believe, is averaging exactly 25 points, and Jaylen Brown is averaging exactly 27 points. So, with blowout potential here as well, these lines seem like they would make sense. However, I would just point this out as I've watched this Celtics team in recent weeks. I don't think we necessarily have reached full go Jason Tatum yet, but we're still trending in that direction. If you look at since he returned from injury in March, he averaged 20 points a game for the entire month of March and was playing 27, 31 minutes most nights that month. Then you got to April, and in 5 regular season games, he averaged 24 points a game, played his first 40 minutes in a game in the final game of the regular season. They're very clearly ramping him up. And now in the postseason, he's averaging 25 points, like I said, a little bit less than Jaylen Brown, but noticeably, he has taken more shots from the field than Jaylen Brown in both of the Celtics' last 2 games, and he has played more minutes than Jaylen Brown in all 4 games this series. Now, in past years, I don't think we would expect Jaylen Brown to be the guy expected to lead the Celtics in scoring in the playoffs. That would be Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown was the second guy. Obviously, both these guys are superstars, and I think they're still navigating who's the alpha. But to me, they're treating Jason Tatum now like it's his team again. And, whether it's a blowout or not, I don't think it's a coincidence we're starting to trend in the direction where he sort of carries this team from a scoring perspective. He scored 30 points in game 4, even in just 35 minutes in that blowout. I think this line is mispriced. I think we're only a few weeks away from Jason Tatum kind of reverting back to what you would see in past years where he is projected to lead the Celtics in scoring. Again, Dimers projects both these guys to smash their numbers here, 30 for Jaylen Brown and 28 for Jason Tatum. But I think there's value on Tatum, so I'll be playing him outright individually as a scorer.
I like that. I think that's a pretty good take. Does sort of feel like they're slowly taking the safety gloves off, letting him do a little bit more, just kind of ramping up to the point where they can fully unleash him in the Eastern Conference Finals, ideally.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's go to the second game here. We've got the Hawks and the Knicks. This series all tied up at 2, but we are back at Madison Square Garden for Game 5. Are we going to get more Trae Young chants tonight, Dave?
I'm trying to figure out if the Knicks fans are just blissfully unaware or they're just rolling with it the way that they do. It's probably the latter, especially if you ever seen any of those post-game Knicks hype videos. But like I said before, I kind of feel like the Knicks could have put the series away. Both losses were by 1, both wins were by double digits for them. But it's kind of fitting that they split the series like this. Each team won 1 game on their home court and 1 away. Just seems like a very evenly matched team, despite the Knicks basically being in control, or at least within, quite literally shooting distance of a win. But in theme of splitting the series, the model's pretty much in line with that, predicting a pretty strong Knicks money line probability at just about 69%. And then a pretty solid Hawks cover at 53% plus 6.5, which unlike the other 2 spreads we were looking at, This one does have the standard line of 6.5 on Novig. The odds of -105 are just flat out the best, while the regular books have it -112, -115. So again, not going to get the edge on the traditional line or odds rather, but on the Novig price, you're getting a pretty good value comparatively, even though it's only 1.8%, which would be under our 2.2% threshold for a best bet. But completely even value on the Hawks money line, 30.9%, 0.0% edge. I think that's almost rare than seeing a big edge. And then the total, basically the same thing, even less of a lean to the over, pretty much a 50-50 split here. So I don't know. This is a tough one because neither of the games have really landed in this zone, except for obviously when the Hawks win, they covered. But for the Hawks to, win or lose a close one, it's just not been a result we've seen. Trying not to read too much out of, a 4-game sample size is not very big, but it's, the best you have to go off of about how these two teams are playing against one another with their current makeup right now. Both very healthy teams. Karl Anthony Towns is having an absolutely great series, triple-double last game. We talked about his boards when he was leading the projections. Game 3? And finding value on an alt line. And I believe that's the game he hit 17 in. Similar projection for him tonight atop the whole board for the whole slate. But yeah, game lines, I don't know. It's another one I just really don't really know what to expect. Like, yeah, if you just want to trust the data, the model gives you a pretty solid bet on the Hawks plus 6.5. But I don't know. It feels like a series that could be over, and here we are, evenly matched. It's a fresh 3-game series.
Yeah, it's a strange one for me with the Knicks right now, because to me, this team should be a team that it wouldn't be all that crazy to see coming out of the East. And maturation wise, chemistry wise, as a group, they've arguably been together longer than most of the big cores in the East this year. And does it just feel like something's off? Like by this point in the cycle of this group of guys, I just thought it would feel like they're closer to the ultimate prize. And instead it just doesn't. It feels like there's something, I don't know, afoot here in a way that I didn't expect coming into this series. Now, maybe those are just, fluke, let a game slip. This could have been a 4-0 sweep and we feel completely differently, but it's not passing the smell test to me, just from a trust perspective. And not really surprised to see the model reflect my gut on that. Even if the Knicks are projected as a win, to see Hawks as the higher probability side at where the number lies, that it kind of reflects my gut feel watching these two teams right now, which you never want to feel like the team that's been together for less time is the team with like the good vibes. Like that's not making me comforted wanting to back the Knicks in a playoff series. So I do think there's a lot of good prop angles in this game though. So let's take a look at props. And you mentioned Karl Anthony Towns has had a pretty damn good series. Some other Knicks have not. And there's a few showing up on the props page here that kind of surprised me, including Mikal Bridges, who we projected 12 points over his line pregame.
Yeah, actually the highest probability prop on the board, almost 3 points over his line. So pretty good projection and probability and edge in line with that. But yeah, not certainly not his best series. You've been getting better complementary contributions from OG Anunoby, who's got a similarly strong projection, probability and value, but even better odds here. He's got 18, 21, and he's hitting back-to-back in 3 of the 4 games, but he got hooked in game 1. So he's been pretty good so far. And if you're taking one outside the top 2, I guess I would lean him probably over Mikal Bridges. Josh Hart's kind of the wild card. You don't really know what you're going to get from him game to game. He was leading the team in boards through the first 2 games. Then Karl Anthony Towns quickly, took over that. But I don't know. It's kind of a bit of a bleak scenario for a lot of the Hawks plays too. Kind of similar to the Sixers. You got a strong play here on Jalen Johnson assists, but they've largely kept him in check in that regard. Even with his rebounds too, his complimentary assists numbers rather have not been nearly what they were in the regular season. Not scoring quite as well either. Obviously, McCollum took over for the first couple of games, and then he came back down to earth last game. I think we did have a first basket prop on McCollum, but I think that was basically it. And then, under 0.5 steals, kind of a deep cut prop there. Alternate line on him for threes. He can find his shot. Certainly, I'm not sure how many games he's hit this in this series, but really good edge play there anyway. Could indicate a small little CJ McCollum ladder if he's been shooting the three with regularity in this series. It's something I would certainly check on, though, to make sure at least the volume is there. If the guy doesn't quite have his shot, he's missing. It's less of a red flag to me than if he's just simply not taking the shots. But overall, kind of similar setup here as the other series. Not a lot of surprises, not a lot of huge values that are on strong probabilities as well. But yeah, if I'm looking at one of these two Knicks props, I'd go OG over Mikal Bridges just because of how the series has gone for either one of them.
Yeah, I like the OG over. Just my favorite points prop in this series. He's the one Nick I feel like I trust the most right now. And I feel like in the previous two games, they've really kind of heavily leaned into him as a play finisher. And times you might expect the ball to be in other players' hands. That could be part of my something feels off issue. It's like, why are they playing through OG Anunoby and not other guys right now? But I feel inclined to believe it's going to continue at the moment. And if I was looking for Hawks props, there's one alt line. You mentioned a bunch of alt lines you can see on site at the very bottom here. I want to call out Dyson Daniels' assists for a moment. It's the highest edge play that the model has in this game, 12% edge, and that is an alt line. They project 5.2 assists for Dyson in this game, but a 43% probability of clearing the alt line over 6.5 assists. You can get 6+ assists at plus money at DraftKings Sportsbook for Dyson. He had 11 assists in game one of this series. He's had 6 assists in back-to-back games in this series. He had 9 assists against the Knicks in the regular season. He's had 6 or more in 4 of 5 games against the Knicks in this matchup. To get plus money on that feels pretty good to me, and I do think there's some upside that he matches what he did in game one. That was his highest minutes total of the series at 36, and that was a back-and-forth game at times with Dyson there. So I'll be playing a small, very small, emphasis on the word small, Dyson Daniels assist ladder here, but from 6+ at plus money all the way up to 10+ at 11-1, Dyson Daniels assist tonight.
Don't hate that at all. Not just plus money on the alt line, but 31% or so implied probability. So getting that big 12% edge looks pretty good.
Yeah, we'll take it. All right, third and final game for NBA Tuesday night. Blazers and the Spurs, and man, did Portland let game 4 slip. I thought this was going to be one of the more surprising series to discuss at this point in it, but instead, the Spurs found their form with Wemby back in the lineup and really flipped the switch in the second half. Our model appears to see some value on Portland tonight, but are you buying that, Dave?
I'm not. I buy the value. I buy that the model sees the value. I'm just not personally going to buy into a Portland cover here. It just really feels like they got away with one when Wemby went down. It's the only time they got away with a win here, just barely so as well. 12-point losses or more in the other 3 games. And I think it's kind of evident by the lines in the past 2 games that they are not Portland being over valued, but the Spurs just almost not being respected enough. Even with Wemby out, they were only 1.5 point favorites in that game, and then they were 4.5 or 5.5 point favorites in game 4, and they ultimately ended up blowing those out of the water. So it just kind of feels like the Spurs ceiling is beyond what the books kind of expect. And even now placing them as much more substantial favorites, I kind of feel like they're just going to go even beyond that. If they can't price them right as shorter favorites, it feels like, I don't have a lot of confidence in them to set the line here on them. I would almost entertain a 20-point win or something if I were going to back the Spurs. I don't know. It just really feels like they are just simply outmatched in this game. There's no value if you play this, I believe, at the regular line. I think it's 12.5. So you're kind of losing the little bit of edge that makes it even appealing to take Portland. So I wouldn't see the 54% probability and jump to a cover. I would just consider the value here. And yeah, for me, it's not enough at the regular line where I would be able to play it to get behind Portland after what I've seen. Just not enough taking even the slightest advantage of the opportunities they've been given.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with the evaluation, interpretation, whatever the word is, that if not for Wemby's surprise departure, this series would have been one of the more straightforward, quick to wrap up series that there have been. So I am, in that sense, a little bit surprised to see the value, even the small value, comes on the Portland side of this game. I totally agree. If you were going to back San Antonio, maybe look like alt line and just go in the other direction and expect this is a dead dog walking in Portland. But I don't know. It's probably a stay away from me from the pregame lines as where they are currently set. What about props? What do you see here?
So I'll just real quick. This is more of a vent, but was it last week before on the Tuesday show? We did a little 3-leg parlay, one prop from each game. And my play in this game was Wemby's blocks. And that's the game he got hurt in. And it was early enough that I cashed a very reduced payout with the injury protection. But he proceeded to get 7 blocks in the game he returned, which is kind of what I was envisioning he might do in that game that he got hurt. He's obviously atop the board here in our projections. If you go and sort by blocks, 3.4 right now. Doesn't have the big plus money appeal that it did last week, though. He's minus 110 for 4+. He was plus 135 last week at that. So not really getting the edge that was appealing about that, but it would not surprise me to see him rattle off 4 or 5+ again in the matchup, especially after he came back and, came back and looked completely fine. So would not be surprised to see almost a repeat performance as they look to just slam the door shut on this series. And then going back to the props, some pretty good value on Denny's points here, over 23.5, projected 26.5. But 7.4% edge. He's been pretty good in this series. He had one really big game and then it's kind of gone under in a couple where he just didn't look so good shooting. I think 5 for 13, 3 for 13, maybe in those 2 games. It was Scoot Henderson who's kind of been the standout scorer in these games, but then he came crashing back down to earth with a goose egg in game 4. Pretty sure we have an edge on him to go over 15.5. If it's still here, actually doesn't look like it is. It was there it is. Over 15.5, projected for 15, but almost at a 50% probability. Really strong plus money value right there. You can get 15+ for about even money, plus 105 or so as well. So if that last game doesn't scare you off, he hit 18, 31, and 21 in the first 3 games. Seemed to be a pretty go-to guy for him in the first games of the series, and then the anomaly of the game in game 4. But a goose egg, it's not like a 5-point game or a 7-point game. A goose egg is pretty nuts to look at you play 28 minutes and take a bunch of shots. So
yeah, it was all or nothing for Scoot Henderson basically in this series,
evidently.
which I don't know, I guess reflects my personal interpretation of his game through the years. So here we are. I want to float this by you, and this very much was a real-time discovery by me, but this is how I use Dimers Pro when I sort of just come to the site every day and kind of just take a quick perusal of what the value shows. Sometimes I come up with creative ways to approach this, and as I scroll through the props page for this game, from a Spurs perspective, I'm after the Spurs in this one. I see a bunch of steals props for all of their guards, all of their perimeter players. We've got De'Aaron Fox steals showing value. We've got Stephon Castle steals showing value. We've got Devin Vassell steals showing value. Each of these are alt line over steals props over 1.5, or you're getting plus money, I guess, not alt line, but plus 137, plus 158, plus 170. Our projection is, right underneath 1.5 for each of these guys, but, mid to high 40s in probability for each. And from a quick look through the game logs, I did notice that this has already happened once this series. In game 2, there was a game where each one of these guys simultaneously had 2 or more steals. In fact, I think it was Fox and Castle both had 2, and Devin Vassell had 3, all in the same game. Feel like from watching game 4, like points off turnovers were a huge story. Portland had 18 turnovers, and felt like there were runouts that were getting the Spurs going. They were opportunistic in nature defensively, trying to jump these passing lanes. And with such an athletic perimeter core, like this is one of the strengths that makes the Spurs defense great with Wemby underneath. So I feel like there's a couple ways you could go about this. You could just take each to get 1 steal and parlay the 3 together and get it at around plus 125, or you could throw a little plus money, 2+ steals, either round robin or parlay. For all 3 of these guys to get 2+ steals, it's 14-1 odds. It's not exactly the biggest long shot ever for a round robin, but I don't even hate like a little two pairs round robin. Try to hit 2 out of these 3 and cash some plus money steals props.
Yeah, you could manually put together each little 2-leg combo. Yeah, not bad. I would maybe even look at who's got the most potential steals, see if you could find slightly a lean there if you want to just take 2 of them or something. But yeah, pretty solid probabilities. I feel like usually you don't see the steal props quite pushing 50%, unless it's, the low line of, 0.5 to go over and it's just, a mega juiced play. But yeah, why not? I mean, the Blazers are probably going to be trying to make a lot of things happen. Could lead to some erratic passing. So something to consider.
Especially if Scoot continues his game 4 form in game 5. We'll see.
Yeah.
But all right, there's your quick example. That's just how I like to use the model. Truly, I would never even think to bet steals props. And then it's like, oh, all the Spurs are showing value as steals bets tonight. And I did see a lot of runouts in the second half of game 4. So we'll see. Hopefully we see some more turnovers for the Blazers, and I can come on Thursday with some, you should have bet that alongside me.
Could be a correlating trend in here. I'll just take a quick peek, narrow it down. Darren Fox, 6 of his last 12, so 50%, and then Wemby under. So no crazy trends in play, but the postseason into the regular season crossover is not always the best trend to be looking at. Within the series is probably more important, and overall what those players generally do. So
yep, that tracks. All right, there you have it. There's your NBA Tuesday night preview. Thank you, Dave. Get Dimers Pro. Try that free trial. 3 days of Dimers Pro free in the app and at dimers.com/subscription.